Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello, nobody. Maybe two people. Hi. Welcome. I'm sorry that this is really late. Like I said, 2 o'clock, and then it was 2:30, and now it's actually like 2:45, nearly, or whatever. Yeah, it's about 45 minutes late, whatever the time is near you, and I'm sorry about that. Yes, all will be explained at some future point, but today is not the day for that. What do we want to talk about? What do we want to get into? I probably don't have an awful lot of time today, again, unfortunately now because of this. But we can get down to something. Hey Essa, how are you? Nice to have you here. How's your week been? What have you been up to? The usual things? Something different? My week's been very different. If you've been following me on Twitter this week, you'll know. I won't go into talking about that too much, because that's not the point of today's session. Hey Vince! Oh Vince! It's one of the Laravel sponsors. Thanks for coming and watching. Did we meet at Laracon this year? In Nashville? Like, your picture looks familiar, but then I couldn't quite put... Yeah, I couldn't put the name to the face, and I just wondered if maybe it is. We did. Yeah, cool. Okay, that makes sense. Hey, great to see you, sort of. Well, hopefully it's good for you to see me. Yes, we did. I do remember. You were wearing a cap the whole time. I think that's what made it slightly difficult for me to recognise your picture. But thank you for your support of all of the things that I'm doing, and I appreciate it. I hope it brings you some benefit. I don't know how you pronounce it. Krakero? Krakero. I try all the variations. That's your... Is it agency? You tell me how you pronounce it, and I'll try and figure out how to get it right. Krakero. Okay. Very cool. You have to tell me more about where the name comes from, because it doesn't ring any bells. Nice. I've always thought about putting my own sort of freelance stuff. I say freelance, that's slightly different maybe from the way that you have your perspective on it, under a brand name rather than my own name. Yeah, and I did it once when I started a business, and I hired a few people, and that kind of, it went okay. I think people sort of started to recognize the business's name in places. But yeah, well, I shut that down when I had to go and get a job, and people left the team and everything. So it's just then I ended up with this brand hanging around that didn't really represent anything, and I just kind of gave it up. So I thought if I ever do that again, I'm probably not going to try and come up with a name for it, and I'll just run with it being me. But that makes it slightly challenging if then you do decide to kind of bring on more people. So I guess, is that your goal at some point, that it's more than just you? Because that then makes a bit more sense, I guess, from my perspective. Like, to have a name, I think it's fine if you're on your own and you have a name and you're always on your own, by the way. Yeah, I think it's completely legit and normal, so it's fine. You made the name up. Okay. Is it like made of multiple parts? Does it come from something, or did you just have like lightning strike your brain and you went, Krakero, that's what it's going to be? Yeah, I didn't want them all to be by Vince Mitchell. Oh, why not? You should take credit. No, it's fine. It's all good. I think it's as I said, a completely legit way to do things. So it's all cool. Essa, what did you say? Usual. Congrats on the launch. Thank you very much. It's been an unusual week for me because of that. Excuse me. And yeah, it's interesting. I think it's been fun. I think it's been fun. It has been fun. It's been nice to see so much support from the community at large, and obviously more is better when you're trying to roll something new out. It's a slightly weird situation because it's not something that I've created from scratch, and I don't know how that's really perceived by everybody, but I kind of feel like it's my baby already. I've made enough changes to it, and I've got a lot of stuff planned. Stuff that I've been working on this morning. It's like coming through. I say this morning. I don't know what time it is for you guys, but hey Dan, welcome. Yeah. So this morning for me, like the last few hours up until a couple of hours ago, I was basically working on getting various bits upgraded to the latest versions of Filament and Livewire and Jetstream, because it's been a little bit behind on some of those things, but now it's getting there. So that's cool. That's been fun. And then I think just like I do want to talk just for a moment, because I think there's one thing that maybe everybody is kind of a bit more excited about, which in the context of my news is like my news just like tiny, and then on Laracon AU, of course, Jess Archer has announced the Pulse, Laravel Pulse. What does everybody think of that? Shall we have a look? Let me just get the where's my screen thing? Sorry, I'm going to get it on the screen so we can have a look at it together, because I haven't really properly had a look yet at it. So I watched, I think Nuno did a kind of handy cam live stream, which was, but yeah, it was okay. It was good. It worked. I think I'll probably re-watch it again with the proper videos. Can you see this? Wait, where's my... Yeah, cool. So let's move that over. Let's give this a little bit less. I realised last time I didn't quite get this right because I've got my little avatar thingy. The chat was fully obscured. That's not fun. Need to figure out better ways to do all of this stuff. Nice. Okay, properly, let's look at this for a second. Looks pretty cool. I was worried it was going to be a competitor to a service I'm getting close to launching. Oh, little tease. I would like to see that at some point, Vince. You keep us posted. Okay, so it's thankfully not gonna knock your thing out of the water before it's even made it to sale. That's good. So the first thing off the bat, when we saw this the other day, I was just like, man, it looks really polished. And I'm looking at this now, and I'm thinking, yeah, it's polished. It's very simple UI. Like, there's nothing. I say that's not in any way to kind of have a go at anybody. It's clean. It's uncomplicated. It looks like just a good choice of colors, icons, and styling, and it's ended up with a really clean and dare I say modern looking dashboard of sorts. That's good. What else? I mean, I think I'm kind of blown away that it's free. something like this, you know, the effort that goes into it, the complexity of the problems that it solves, and then the value that it adds. You know, people will deploy this and they'll not mention it to clients or the business that they're working for or whatever, but it's going to like intrinsically solve problems that maybe you didn't even know that you had, and you're going to go, okay, now we're aware of this thing that we weren't aware of. Or maybe you're using some other monitoring tool and it's costing you, I don't know, $50 a month, and then you go, well, this is just good enough, and it's not hurting us to run it ourselves, so let's drop that other thing and use this instead. Great, you know, you just saved $600 a year or whatever it is, and the time that it takes to dig into these things. You know, you've got something that's very Laravel specific. You know, it's not going to replace everything, but in fact, I think the way that Taylor's pitched it is like it's not a replacement, it's a early warning system, which, yeah, maybe it doesn't end up saving loads of money, but it just feels cool. Like, it's nice to have it really integrated with the Laravel ecosystem. So if you're already using, you know, the Laravel cache facades and the HTTP facade and that kind of thing, and you're just going to get all of these things popping and working and everything for free, which is really amazing. So, okay, there's not much to see here beyond what was, yeah, that's just going to take me down the page, what was announced. The page looks nice, dropping soon on GitHub. I think Jess said something like next week that it comes out, potentially, hopefully. So we'll get our hands on this and see what it's like. Yeah, I'm keen for it. I think it's really good. Nice, a really nice addition to the ecosystem. And yeah, free, incredible. But I want to talk about free stuff for a moment because of that. There's a little bit going on in the space, I think, generally at the moment, just open source software in general, but also within the Laravel community. You know, there's a lot of really good, high quality, high level code packages, libraries, whatever, that are open source, that they're free, and how can I put it? I think it's kind of, there's a bit of an imbalance and maybe a bit of a weird expectation being set. You know, like Laravel's obviously fully open, fully free, etc., and it's making people huge amounts of value. That's great, but in order for somebody to keep on working on something that complex for that length of time, you've got to be able to justify earning a living. You've got to be able to get to the point where you can say, okay, it's not just a half an hour here or a half a day there that I can work on this thing and try and improve it. It needs to be dedicated, like, time, and that you're not distracted by lots of other things. I'm experiencing that personally with some of the things that I'm trying to work on. And I'm speaking to quite a few others in the community who are having the same problem. You know, and they're kind of, I think the right thing to do in this situation is to say, well, if I'm earning something for this, then that's the amount of time that I'm going to commit to working on it, because there is missed opportunity if you allow your time to just expand in, like, freely into space where you're not earning any money from it anymore. And it's fine if it's a passion project and you've got the time and you're not worried, and you've got the finances to like invest in it and whatever. But if you haven't, and your alternative use of that time is to go and do paid work, you know what the answer should be. Like, you have to go and do paid work. That's really, really hard. To then try and squeeze both things in, you know, if you've got family or other responsibilities, it's like, wow, this is going to be really tough. So it's tricky, and I think what I was saying a moment ago about the sort of unfair expectations is it comes from I'll say the core team in Laravel, but it's true of many other open source ecosystems, that there's often an element of the core that is doing okay financially, like it maybe employs people, it's a business, and it's able to pay at least one person's full-time salary. But then the people who use that and get into that ecosystem seem to expect that every other tool and library and package that's available for that ecosystem should abide by the same approach, and just like, well, it's free, so it should be free. That their thing is free, so your thing should be free. And it's like, well, yeah, but they've been able to make a business out of this, and I haven't yet. Like, when you look back, I think Taylor got to a point where he built Forge, and that was probably, I mean, I don't know exactly, but it was probably doing very well for itself, you know, as a product, quite early on it feels like. I don't even, when was Laravel Forge released? I don't even know if I'm going to be able to find out quickly. If anybody knows, like, feel free to say. I can't. Yeah, a quick Google's not going to answer that question. But I mean, it's been around for a really long time, and from my point of view, I don't know, I've definitely had it from almost, let me see if I can get to, let's go back way, I'm not going to be able to do this. This is going to be like, I don't even know, like, this is just going to be paging for ages. Yeah, I think I probably signed up for it in 2014. I've basically been paying for Forge for years because it's a no-brainer to me. Yeah, that's perfect. Thanks, Vince. I mean, yeah, you can see that's 5 years already. But you know, you think Laravel was really kind of officially released in 2011. So it was only 3 years, maybe not even 3 years later, that Forge came out as a product. And it was Forge, from my perspective, and I'll be happy to be wrong on this, but it's Forge that's really enabled Taylor to go and do all this other stuff and turn it into the great framework that it is, because at some point after releasing Forge, he was able to go full-time on Laravel. And you know, that's great. I'm really pleased that he was able to do that. I'm pleased for him, but I'm also pleased for me and you and, you know, everybody who benefits from that, because it's a great tool and it's made our lives a lot easier. You know, like, many of us have a livelihood from it, which is great. But the expectation that you could get to the same point, you know, with the space that we're in now is, okay, it was 2015 that I started. Whatever, I wasn't quite day one. The space that we're in now is super saturated. I think people don't want subscription services as much. You know, we're all a little bit tired of that. I think a lot of software that you can build has been built. That doesn't mean to say you can't find an edge and compete or niche down and whatever. There's loads of opportunity still, for sure. But it's just harder, you know? It's like, when Forge came out, it really was solving a problem that really it wasn't solved. You could provision servers, but through an API and whatever, but nobody was providing that kind of tooling at that level of simplicity, and marketing it to developers in a specific niche. Not that I'm aware of anyway back then. Hi Sanjit, welcome. So, you know, it's just that whole, there was a time and a place where it became like viable more quickly, and now it's just harder. So, you know, I guess my point is that we've got to step up to the plate a little bit. If we're in a business where we're making money, or even making a profit, especially making a profit, the open source stuff that we use, we've got to support. And I know I'm talking to hopefully preaching to the converted, or whatever the right expression is here, and you guys are all in support of the open source stuff, at least in some way, towards defraying costs financially of the people who are making those things. And, you know, you should be applauded for that if that is what you're doing. But I think we need to keep on spreading that message a little bit harder. You know, I've tried for myself, and, you know, I'd like to think that I'm trying for others. I do support a lot. I spend, it's not loads, but, you know, I spend a few $100s a month on open source sponsorships. And that's increased recently because of the Laravel project. I don't know, you could look at that as marketing spend or whatever, but, you know, at the end of the day, I'm sponsoring a bunch of open source projects, and there's a little bit of a kickback from that in terms of visitors and whatever sign-ups, but that's tangential really. Yeah, we just, like, this stuff, everybody knows it. This stuff is like the foundation of the things that we're doing. We've got to support it. So I think it's great that stuff like this is available for free, because on the face of it, this is super powerful. It brings more people into the ecosystem. It potentially locks more people into the ecosystem. I don't know whether that's a good thing. I think the unfortunate side effect, perhaps, can be seen sometimes, that this is it's not setting the expectations appropriately for everybody. Like, there's Laravel as an organization appears from the outside to be an extremely profitable and successful business. So they can do this. They can do highly polished stuff and put it out for free. You can't do that if you're on your own, and your alternative is you go and do paid work. You know, if you haven't got some edge that kind of convinces thousands and thousands of people to be sponsoring you regularly, and that usually means that you've got to have invested upfront quite a lot to get to that point where this thing is just like, people go, wow, this is a great product, and this person's obviously spent loads of time on it. It's like, yeah, well, if you can afford to invest that time, and then you can, the payoff is there, great, do that. It's not going to be there for everyone, and that doesn't mean that everyone who's making those things aren't doing really good and useful things. And I think the disconnect is that the expectation is that stuff is free and that they don't have to pay, and that needs to change, because that stuff can't stay. It can't stay of the high quality that it needs to be, or that it should be, if people aren't being paid to do it. They're not going to be able to survive. So sort it out. I don't know what we do to solve that, but yes, Essa, thank you. I appreciate that so much, that you are sponsoring me. And I know, like, my stuff, even some of the stuff that I'm working on, hasn't come out yet. So that advanced support is really, really valuable and appreciated. Anyway, I'm going to stop yakking about that. What's the time? So we've done that for 20 minutes now, and that's too much. Let's get back onto this payments thing. Hopefully everybody knows where we're kind of roughly at with this. If you don't, just ask and I'll answer specific questions in the chat. But if you want to have a proper catch up of what this is about and how we got here, where it's going, have a look at some of the previous videos on my my channel, stuff that I've recorded from previous streams, because that hopefully get you up to speed. I've tried to create chapters and things in all of the recordings, so it should be kind of sufficient to jump around and just find the bits that matter the most and get up to speed. But so we're doing a payments solution type thing. I have not spent enough time thinking about where we're at with it at the moment, but the main goal right now is to enable customers, like I've got a couple of people lined up that want to use this, and they're going to be chasing me if they haven't already. So using it from their point of view is being able to call into the system and have it create a payment. We got to this place where last week was kind of fun. Honestly, I enjoyed it a lot. We were trying to make sure that we had idempotent requests. So when I make this request to create a payment intent, that it would require this kind of idempotency key, which then if the client didn't see that the request had completed and it wanted to try it again, it could try it again, and then it would do something. Like it wouldn't recreate the record on the database. It would say, yeah, like something went wrong, it's already there. This is actually, I was thinking about this more, and this is kind of wrong. I don't want it to kind of throw a validation error here. I want it to complete almost as if it was the original request. So I'm going to change that. And the other thing that I was thinking about was, I don't know if I'm going to change this part. I'm storing the key and the data hash separately, and then checking both columns. I think we can see that here, yeah. So the unique rule runs on the idempotency key column, but it has this extra where the hash matches the hash of the data that's come through the request. And there's little bits about this that I'm really, they're kind of gnawing at my brain, because it feels a little bit odd. I'm thinking that you could, if you put the key with the data, so here where I get the data hash is basically made up of a specific set of the data. If I put the key in there and then hashed it all, then I just have one value to look for in my database, instead of two. But then the other side is, like I was saying, the validation rule. It shouldn't really be a validation rule where if it's found, we bum out and say to the user, the client, sorry, that already exists. We just want to kind of play through and let it look like it's succeeded. You know, if this, in the context of the create payment, we just want it to look like the payment's been created, even though on the database side we haven't had to do that because we've already received that request and processed it correctly. So yeah, there's some things there that we could change. I think the fact that I've thought about it and that I would like to do it doesn't mean that I should do it at this stage. I think this is kind of fine. You know, the client can interpret this as going, oh, okay, you did get what I sent you before, so it's fine. I can treat it that way. It just becomes more complicated if the response from this contains data that the client needs. So The issue here, in fact, maybe that is the exact problem that we need to solve, because now I think about it, if they've missed making that post, they've missed the response from making that post, but the data's been stored on our side, then we've captured it. We've captured the record that they were trying to send us, but then we haven't been able to send them the data that they actually wanted. So I do need to change it, simply. I don't think I need to change the two columns stuff yet, but I think I need to step back away from this validation rule logic. I need to think about moving that somewhere else, and it not be validation, that it's actually like a pass-through thing, and it's probably going to sit in the controller. There's another thing though, whilst we're here. Why does the chat keep disappearing? Because I've got this. I can get rid of that one. Don't need it. This data hash. This is also a bit of a complexity. I don't know the answer to this one yet. I feel like there's an obvious one that I just haven't thought of. This is fine if these fields are the only ones we hash always for all the records, and we mandate that the idempotency key that the client provides us is unique to them, and that would mean that they only ever send us a different key for each different request, and they only send us the same key when the request is exactly the same, which they've got to figure out. Like, we'll let them figure that out. If they send us, maybe that's why we do need them as separate columns. If they send us the idempotency key again, but the hash is different, maybe that's when it needs to be a validation request. So it's not where I don't want to find it where the hash is the same. Where not? Because it's not going to work at the moment, because I think it's going to do it's going to fail a rule. Oh no, it won't fail. There's no database rule on that. So actually this will work now. Oh, it would help if I was calling them my local rather than the actual one. Let's go. Is it on HTTPS? Probably not. It looks like a no. Okay, well, it worked anyway. Fine. Basically what's happened is it's created this payment record even though it already exists in the database. So we'll see, or maybe we won't see it again. Well, we do, because I forgot to refresh this screen from older records. So this was the one that I did last week, and we can see, do I stretch this out? Whoa. Slowly, good, right. So the data for all of these is the same. The idempotency key for two groups of them are also the same, and that's what we want to avoid. But if somebody does send the same data with the same key, then it shouldn't create a new record. It should just kind of return the previous one. So I was preventing that by having this rule in place where it just said where everything's the same. So if I try that again now, it's going to say it's taken. But I just want, it needs to be where, I think somebody mentioned this last week and they were bang on, they were right about it, and we've got there eventually. I'm just slow as potatoes. This needs to be where the merchant ID, the team ID as it is in this, is whatever the team ID is coming into here. And I don't think I have the team ID in here actually, but I think it comes in as a root parameter. Yeah, so it's that. So I should just do it that way because it's the root that's available to this request, this form request. So if the team ID is the same, and then so if I try this with a different one, I should have proven that out before I did that bit of code. See, like this is where it's all backwards because I'm so dumb. Let's do this one. This should, sorry, that's the original setup, right? This should fail now because the idempotency key is already taken. Oh, there's no team 2. Well, that sucks. Let's create a team 2 so we can test this case out. Oh, where's my... Do I not have the window for this? I thought I did. Must have gone. Okay, whatever. Let's bring one up. Let's bring one to life. It's spread.test, and we can register. We'll just do like whatever. Okay, so now I've got a team 2, I think. Let's have a look. Cool, okay. So now let's do this again. Oh, still fails. Merchant ID must be a type string, null given. Payment controller line 23. That's not null, it's a 2. Oh, no, that's merchant ID. That's this thing. No, it's not. No, it's not that thing. What am I talking about? Come on, brain, get into gear. It is. Let's go and have a look at that payment controller. Where does it say? Line 23. Dum, 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 dum. My hunch was right. I'm just being super backwards. So merchant ID is that Trello merchant ID, and it's because it's null. And so I should just set it to something useful. Well, we can have the same one. I think that's fine. I don't think that's going to cause a problem. No, it is. Let's make it slightly different. Fine. Okay, that's done now. Programming by error. Early arrays and traversables can be unpacked. Well, this is because that request to their API is now failing. This sucks, man. Let me use a different one. Where's that going to open up? Who knows? Right here. Let's get this over here. No, I can't use a different one. I don't have a different one. This is actually really painful because I'm using their production, because they haven't got a non-production API, the Trello that I'm using, which is why that hurts. Let me take a mental break and have a sip of water and think about this for a second. database and all the data has been sent, like a checksum with the secret key. Yeah. Do you know what I'm going to do? I think you're right. Principally, I'm not going to make it complicated. I'm just going to ignore the database merchant ID thing. I'm just going to hard code it because I can for now. So it's always the same one. It doesn't matter. Like, that's just, I need to come back and fix that later. Obviously, I don't want everyone paying me. I do want everyone paying me, but I don't, if you know what I mean. That succeeded. Why has that succeeded? That should have failed because I've sent that same key and it should have found that it's not unique for that same hash. And that hash should be the same. Oh no, the hash is already... man, I'm so stupid. The hash has already got the merchant ID in it, which means it won't be. It's already accounting for the merchant ID, which is why I didn't need this extra bit. This is where it's like, should the data be in the hash or should it be separate somewhere else? I don't... Look, let's just forget the last 10 minutes happened and we'll go back to where we are. So, we've already accounted for that by the fact that we've got the merchant ID in the hashed data, which completely makes sense now. And I should make a little note, like, we have the merchant ID here, so we don't need to worry about multiple merchants with the same item potency key. Right, fine. This also just kind of makes, it's a bit ugly, isn't it? But I'll leave it for now. I don't need that. That's not what I clicked on. I mean, it obviously is, but it's not what I wanted. So, okay. Well, that secondary merchant can stick around. I don't worry about that. So the bit that I want to get to then, let's go back to where we were a few minutes ago. This, I don't want the same request to give me this error. Right, now, that shouldn't have, but it has. And that's because the rule, so what's the result of this going to be in this case? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is the item potency key, and data hash is not the same as... Oh, it's different. Why is it different? Oh, because that one's number 2. Okay, yeah. So, where not? What am I missing there? Well, that's just going to find any of the other rows, isn't it? It's going to find this one, or that one, and just go, oh yeah, that key already exists. So this is the, I can't rely. Ah, man. Sorry for the mental hopscotch that I seem to be playing right now. I think what that's led me to is I do have to be explicit in this query where the team ID is the specific team ID, the merchant ID that I'm getting from the request. It's got to be, because I've got to be able to pull that out separately in order for this to happen, right? So that's going to be successful. if I have the same idempotency key but a different payment, it should fail. Good. And if I go back, same key, same payment, it should succeed from the client's perspective, but we shouldn't get multiple rows in the database, but we will at the moment, right? This is the next kind of challenge to solve here. I know this is very niche to this problem, but this is an important one. Oh, we talked about this last week. It's an important one to solve. And we're finding that actually it's not as simple as we put together last week. It's more complicated. So, okay, now we've finally got to this place of understanding. I have anyway, maybe you were all there ahead of me. But now, controller, we've got through the validation. So we're in here and this is where we want to say, basically, what do we want to do? We've passed validation. So we can try to create the payment with Trello. But if the payment already exists, we should return the existing payment. That's exactly right. So how do we do, that payment already exists? It is kind of, we want to find it based on, this is where I just want a single value to find it on and not have to piece it together from lots of different things, and that's where the idempotency key in the hash maybe makes some sense. If we did do that, let's just see what happens, because it'd be quite nice then to say I can just pass the data hash back into that model and get, like, there's a row here that exists for this, but I can only do it if this uniqueness thing exists in there. Let's do it. Let's see. That's feels like a clean. Maybe I'm not explaining that very well, but I'll make it clear when I've got it out of my head. Maybe this causes other problems. We'll see. So before I add any new logic here, just prove if I make the same request. Yeah, because that key's different now. So that's that same problem, the same key for the same. That's kind of. I need it to be a new one. Let's just do. It needs to be a new one that doesn't exist for that. That's fine. That's what it's supposed to do. That's where I've got to. Now, if I do this again, it should succeed. And now we'll have 2 rows with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and the same hash. But now this hash contains the idempotency key as well, which means I can search based on this hash. I can search this table for this hash and find that row. And I know that there should only be one. So I could say sol. Let's not get into that debate. That'll be problematic in this database because there definitely are some that aren't sol when they should be. That's we can get around that problem. So it's like if what is it? Payment sol. Find where data hash is request input data hash, get the only one, we respond with this. So this is the little bit of duplication, just for now, and we can sort that out later. Payment. I think that's the way to do it. Right. If I do this, this should throw an exception because of the sole. Yeah, 2 records were found. Right, that's good, that's expected. That just means my data isn't, the integrity of my data is poor. And we can sort that out in this database. But we can sidestep that just by changing this key, right? We send the first request. Oh, it must be 1 as well. Okay, that's actually kind of annoying. Yeah, so I can't use that purely just to check. Maybe that makes sense anyway. Fine. So we just take the first. There isn't one, so it skips that the first time. Right, and let's just prove what we've done. That's our new 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And if we send it again, we should get the same response, but no second record in the database. Same response, it was quicker. It didn't call that third API. You could see that, hopefully. And that means we haven't got this extra record in the database. Sweet, okay. I'm happy enough with that. Now to say that covers all these cases where you might have sent a payment request and that I can fathom at the moment. All of those cases where I might send a payment request and then resend it for some reason. Okay, that's good because this is a different payment. I have to change the key. I do that once, it works. I do it again, it seems to work, but we only get 1 record. Sweet. Okay. Question time. It is important to return the payment. In what case you use will payment twice? In what case your Google user will call create payment twice? Okay, let's go through that. Sorry for the few minutes delay on getting an answer to that. So the case where the client application would make the request twice is if for some reason the connection between the client application and my service got cut after it started making the request. So if you imagine they make the API post to my API, and the data comes all the way over to the server because they've got a connection. They've sent the data, the TCP connection's proven that it's able to send it, so it does that. All of the data is transferred to my system. My system's going to respond to that because it doesn't care about the connection anymore. I've got all of the data, let's do the work that I've got to do the work, store it in the database, call the third-party API, whatever it is, blah, 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 blah. All the things that my application is going to do. And then it's going to say, now send a response over the network. But in that time, if the client has lost its connection, or for some reason my service can't make a connection to that client, that response isn't going to get to the client. So the client's not going to know whether it failed or succeeded. What they're going to see is what looks like a failure. But what they should do is try again. So they need to confirm not just that they were able to make the request and send the data to me, but they also need the data that comes back, because I'm creating something new to give to them. So it's not enough that they just go, yeah, we made the request, bye, and they forget about the response. They need to know something from the response, something new that they don't already know, which means the only real way for them to do that is to make that, they either make that request again or they make a different request, one that tries like opportunistically to see if there's more data on the API. And it's that if they try the opportunistic approach of like, well, we just poll the API, that I'm just going to get loads of requests being made unnecessarily until they see the record that they want to see, and they've got to determine whether or not it's there. You know, they've got to do some matching, they've got to do some checking and stuff. It's easier all around for everyone if they just make the same request again. Like, oh, it looked like it failed. Let's just wait a second and we'll try again, you know. There are other things that will come out of that for sure, but for now, this is like a simple approach. It lets them confirm, like retry, and they just get what they should have gotten back, right? So they get these QR code and URL. Cool, I'm happy with that. And that means now that I can tell one of my potential customers that they can use this API and I can reliably have them do it. And it's not gonna cause my database trouble, my application trouble, or this third party trouble. So I can just run this all day and it's just going to come straight back from my database. It's not hitting that third-party API, which is cool. And then you just know, like, well, if I actually do want, you know, the same payment amount for the same customer, well, cool, but that's going to have to be a different key. Once I've got a different key, now it's called it. It's gone to that API and it's stored a new record in the database. Boom, sorted. So, okay. Hopefully we're all there with that. Let's see. Cool. That's the wrong thing entirely. This then means, well, what else does it mean? It means that I probably want a little bit of a user interface somewhere so that they can actually see what's going on. Should you add a key to say that it was already created? That's a good point. I think the difference would be I would typically reach for the response code for that, right? Because I know there's a differentiation already. There's a 201, which I think is created. Yeah. So what I would do there is actually say, I think you're right. I think that's a good thing to point out, is that they could see this, if they got this response, that, you know, with a 200 okay, that just means, yeah, we got it. It was already there. With this one, we could say it's not just an okay. See, we can set the status. We can say it's 201. So when it's a new request, they can tell just from the header. So this should be an okay. And if we do, I'm just going to go back down. So I'm going to end up with too many numbers. And that one's just created. And then if I do it again, it's going to be an okay. So yeah, then you've got your difference. If I'm a developer, I don't understand why I didn't receive the same URL again and again when the response code seemed fine. Yeah, cool. So then it just comes down to, like, you know, when you see it this way, yeah, it could be a 304 as well. That's true. So we could make that other one. Like, this is also where it just gets a bit niche. It's down to how you want to do it. We could make that one the 304, and it would say it's not modified. Ah, okay, that's interesting. So the way that gets handled by the client, the actual body gets ignored, or it doesn't even get sent potentially. So I think setting that code just ditches the body, because it says, well, if it's not different, then you've already got everything that you need, and that's not true. I can't say that. it needs to be something else. So yeah, I mean maybe 200 is still not quite the right one, but let's stick with it for now. So like we could figure that out later. It works for now. Somebody else with better knowledge of HTTP response codes can point us in a better direction. So, right, customer can make this payment. So the things that are next, it's if the client's been able to get that response, then they can decide how they're going to present that to their user, the person who's going to pay. So it's actually going to go through the payment flow. And that means they've probably got a record of this data. Let's assume that they're going to keep a record of it, and they're not just going to show it temporarily and then throw it away and then do another payment request if somebody sort of refreshes the page or whatever. They're going to go, okay, this is in this version of their application, or like the current session for the user, or maybe even for this particular user, there's a pending payment that we've created. So we're going to keep showing that one to them until they've paid it. Cool. They go through the payment flow, they pay. There's a few things that I think need to happen. So, and they're all sort of predicated on the idea that the payment flow can send the user back to us, or the service that we're using can tell us about itself, about what's happened. Let's go. Where are we? I don't know. Where's it gone? Let me get my things in the right place. I don't know. I had a thing about this. It's not here. It's not there. I'm thinking it's Notion because it's Notion, but it's not my Notion. It's somebody else's Notion. Where's their Notion? I think I've got it in a window somewhere. Right. This is the documentation that I've got from them, basically. It's kind of sketchy. It's not perfect. So this is the one that I'm calling at the moment, and I want it to send me, if they've got a webhook, which I know they do have, and that's what I'm scanning quickly here for. It's down here. Okay. So I think they've set me up with that. The trick is I'm not going to be able to test it without actually making a real payment, which I can do, but it requires me to have my phone because of the way that the payments thing works. So let's let's build up what we think we're going to need to handle this, and then we'll figure it out. But before we go into building mode, I wanted to get through, when the payment happens, I want stuff to happen on my side so that I can inform the merchant that a payment was made, because it would be nice for them to see like a notification, perhaps. And also to send potentially, like this could be a product feature, for example, to send the customer a receipt or an invoice or whatever it is. Just kind of go, okay, I can take care of this. Part of the product is that I can take care of this for you as the merchant, so you don't need to worry about it, which is kind of nice. And I can only really do that if I can keep track of what's happening with the payments. And I think actually the other thing that we could do is just have like user interface presenting payments that have been maybe created. I don't know about that, but certainly ones that have been completed or ones that have been attempted and failed, and with maybe some idea of what's going on with that payment, so that the merchant can go back to their customer and help triage any problems or whatever. But that might be after this. I kind of feel like the webhooks thing is the right thing to be doing next. What do you reckon? Rather than building out UIs. Oh, there's only a couple of us left. Maybe I should. I don't know. I've still got a bit of time. This doesn't look particularly complicated, like the data that's coming. I capture the payment ID, right, from Trello. Do I not? Yes. And then it's just a status. So it's just reading what their different statuses could be, which they don't document here. So what kind of event is it? And then what's the status? What does that map to? It maps to something. So I probably want, an enum that can take it from the Trello status. That feels really appropriate. And then turn it into, the enum status that I want to use. In fact, I think I've probably got a status enum already. So this would have a try from Trello status. I'm calling it try from because there's already from and try from on enums by default. And I basically need to convert their string status. So string, because it looks like that's what they're going to send. Status into one of my statuses. So return self from. And then in here, I just want to. Does it need to be? No, I don't need to do from. I don't need to match it based on a number. I can just return the specific thing. So if I say successful is the one that I know, 1 hour, you can say it's paid. And I don't know what the other ones are going to be. So failed is going to be something. And whatever they provide, then I can handle, right? Because I can just map it to one of these, or I can create some new ones if I need to present their statuses in a way that makes sense to my users. Okay, that's one bit. I actually need an endpoint for this to call. I think I've already defined with them what I wanted that to be. So let me just find that, because that's going to preempt where we go. Sorry, I'm just digging through messages. right, Trello webhook. So I'm going to create that because I should have thought about that a little bit more. Did I put it in an API? No, that's really bad. So it's in the web. I mean, maybe that's okay, but it's whatever. I don't know what it's going to come back as. Let's assume that it's a post because it might have a lot of data at some point. So it's Trello webhook. Right, and then I'm just going to do it here for now. So it's read the documentation. It is a post. Yay. We need to provide us with a URL endpoint it's capable of receiving, which we've done. All of our requests carry an encoded signature that only you can decode. Security purposes, you should not accept any requests that don't come with the correct signature. This is delivered in the X Trello signature header. Let's take that. We want. Do I have a request? Yes, I do. Request. Request. Header. Oh my gosh. So signature. Right. So we've got that. To ensure the integrity of the content, you will need to validate that the webhook's payload body corresponds to our signature once it's been encoded using your webhook secret, which we will generate and provide to you. They have not sent me that. And then this is vomit JavaScript for doing this thing. TypeScript even. It's fine. It's fine. So this is pretty typical of these things. I've done one of these. What was it? Typeform. Just. It's going to be kind of similar to this. Okay, so this is a signature matching function. I think I'm doing something here that I should never do. This is string comparison on hashes. I think someone would be very upset about that. Yeah, it needs to be this. There's a hash matching. I'm going to take this because it's PHP code, and then I'm going to refer to the TypeScript. In fact, I'm gonna use this controller altogether because this is the wrong. I shouldn't be trying to do something that complicated just in my roots file anyway. So PHP artisan make controller webhook Trello webhook controller webhook controller. I've actually got too much stuff now because got all of that guff which I don't need. Signature matches. Gignature. I did it. How did I do that? There's no way that I pressed G. It's further over. There's something weird going on. Right. It's not typeform, so we can get rid of that. It's this one. And I want to make make this work with my Trello webhook. Blah, blah, blah. I just want to pass it as an invocable. I think I want it to be an invocable. Don't do any others like that. Trello webhook. Trello. Yeah, that's fine. I like that. And this can be invoke. Cool. And I need to pass the whole request into that signature matches function so that I can get the body and verify it against the... That's not particularly great. Means I kind of want this to receive... I just want it to receive the signature. What do they call it? The trusted and untrusted, and they call this verify signature. So let's keep it the same. Instead of signature matches, that's verify signature. And it's funny, they're passing in the whole request. Of course, I don't want to do that because this feels like it could be generalized. I want to pass in the trusted signature and I'm going to work out the signature from the other bit, so the body. So I actually want no, it should be the request. It's complicated. I'm trying to make this too general, and I shouldn't. I should just make it. Take the request. This is fine. Take the request. Do what you got to do with it. It's going to be very specific to the Trello one for now, and I'll generalize it later because I don't need to generalize it right now. There's only one case. Right. So SHA-256. So the trusted one is the one that I make from the body because I know. So that's this one. Let's get these things looking like they should. And untrusted signature is the one in the header. Okay. How I get to those doesn't really matter. Typeform secret 256. I don't know what this is. This is the secret that they're talking about that they haven't provided for me. This webhook secret. They're calling it Trello Link Auth Token. Maybe that is... where is that? Let's go. Boop, boop. I don't have it. Projects, spread. Come on, mate. Oh. Dear. Sorry, I'm just looking for this see if the key that I'm using is called the same. I didn't call it that, but it might be that one. They might be using my own API key, my own Trello API key as the webhook secret. That doesn't feel appropriate if that's true, and I don't know that it is true. That's an assumption, so maybe that's not. And I shouldn't use env in there anyway, because that should be coming from config so that it can be cached. So I would want that to be services Trello. I'll say key for now. Okay. JSON stringify. That's basically what that will be. If they send JSON, and then this will just be the JSON string, so I don't need to stringify. And then it's hashed, but I think we don't base 64 encode on this one. Oh, I don't know what that does. What does crypto digest hex do? Equivalent, PHP equivalent of crypto digest hex. Is this the same problem? Crypto create hash. This is not. I mean, what? This was being base 64 encoded because I think that's the way that they. I actually don't know. I think it was the way that Typeform creates its signatures. And I don't. I just want to. Yeah, exactly. Hash equals. That's the one. The known and the user. So the other way around. Yeah, Copilot sucks sometimes. Maybe that doesn't actually matter. I don't know. I could look into that. That would be interesting to read the documentation on how all of that works. But not today. I don't know. I don't know what that's. It's digest hex. And this doesn't mention it at all for PHP. But they're doing some MD5 hash from that string. Hi Samuel, thanks for coming along. You're in the middle of a head-scratching moment. Don't know if you know anything about crypto, the crypto library in JavaScript, or in Node, and what its digest hex function does. Let's say Node.js crypto digest method. Oh, horrible. Geeks for Geeks website. No. Why are you at the top of Google? What are you doing? No. The hash. I'm just creating It's the digest of the data which is passed when creating the hash. I mean, this is like cyclical. When we create a hash, we first create an instance of hash using crypto create hash. Then we update the hash content using update. Not get the resulting hash. So to get the hash, we use the digest function, which is offered by the hash class. Cool, let's learn together. Oh, Essa, that's a good little find, thank you. OpenSSL, yeah, that feels like it's going to be different. This isn't OpenSSL really. This is just random Trillo hash coming in, and we got to match it. I mean, I'm focusing on this, and we don't even know what that looks like yet, or how it's going to come in. But it feels nice to get it into the right shape for when we're kind of ready. I think. Here we go. I think we shouldn't base 64 encode this. I think we can just deal with whatever comes out of hash HMAC. We can have a look at what that might be, even though it's not going to necessarily make any sense. But in theory, this is now correct. And then the comparison with what they've sent is as simple as that. So maybe it just looks a little bit too simple on the PHP side compared to what they demonstrate here, because they're having to do weird JavaScript things like putting it in a buffer and making sure that it gets converted to ASCII so that they can do. Right, I'm guessing that's what's happening, that they're taking the, and maybe this is why it does need to be base 64 encoded for us to do, I don't know, actually. It's too tricky. I kind of need that to hit the endpoint and just capture, I need to try it. Like, there's no way of testing it, unfortunately, because I can't edit the endpoint yet in their system either. Getting them to change the endpoint or sending test posts from their system, they're not there yet. On PopDoc, hexpar is an option in POP2. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. On PopDoc, what's PopDoc? Oh, PHP, the heck option. For the hash HMAC. Or for something else. Do you mean this one? Because it might be, I mean, like the binary output, we definitely, like, that's not usable for us really as a string or anything in any rendering way. But that's should be, ooh, actually does hash equals accept that, or is it going to throw a fit? Wow, I cannot type hash equals. So that's an example where they're just passing well, so this is fine because I guess the default here is false. When set to true output's raw and the default's false. So I've set that to true. maybe I just need to set that to false in this case by removing it. And then I shouldn't need that funky prefix, potentially. Depends what their thing looks like. Well, I don't even know. I don't know why Typeform gets us to do this and why some of those other examples also include that. Is that because, what other examples? This one, they do it here. So they actually make a prefix of SHA-256 and then they do a comparison, which means they must be sending SHA-256 on that string. So maybe I do need that. Let's leave it because they've got it here. And then we kind of want to do this response 401. Oh, I think I abort already with a 403. Okay, so that's fine. Verify signature. And then yeah, this isn't great still because I don't know any of this works. I could test it. We could write a test for that. But I still don't, like, that would only prove that the logic that I've written here works for a test case, because I don't actually know what one of these is going to look like, and I don't know if this key is the right one. So all we'll be doing is testing that we can successfully compare two hashes that we make with the wrong, potentially wrong data, which is a bit of a redundant test. Because we definitely can. Create two equal hashes from the same data. So, right, I don't need to do this bit because this is typeform nonsense. What I do want to do here is inspect the data in the payload. I want to know what the event type is. Presumably that means there can be different ones eventually. They only support status update at the moment. But I should make sure that it's a status update event, right? So, no, let's do match. Match is way nicer. Request. I'm going to move this out, actually. No, I don't need it beyond this. Event type. Why am I typing it all out? Come on, I've got a very powerful computer. Yeah, let's extract it into a function straight away. That feels like fun. Protected function handle status update, and yeah, pass in the whole request. That's fine as well. Does feel kind of weird that I'm passing the request around all of the time, but I guess I could capture it at some point and do, I don't know, something with it. Let's just do that. And this is going to return a response. I don't know what that's going to look like yet. This should be boo. This should be a response. Okay. And the status update, we're going to look for the payment, update the status, and then we're going to let the we're not going to do stuff here. This is just going to update the status. We're going to let the model figure out what should happen next, potentially, or like the event system to hook into the change of status, or like, because it literally is a status, is a state machine type of thing, like a typical state machine type thing. Maybe that's what we come up with next, is a good state machine piece of logic that handles that. And maybe that will in fact change what this is. But for now, let's just say, yeah, we want to return a 200. Ooh. So we can start with that. Return response. It can just be empty. I don't think it needs... They don't explicitly say what to send back to them, but also I don't know whether they will keep trying if it fails for some reason. So like if they were to send a webhook ping and my system, they can't reach my system, I'd want them to keep trying. I don't know what the logic is for that, if they've got any of that yet, but we'll see. I'm going to make a note of that. If this fails, we'll keep retrying. So the payment is in request payload payment ID. Oh, it's like my computer can hear me. Right, payment ID. And then I want the payment itself. Get, no, Trello payment ID, is that what I called it? Yes, is payment ID. First or fail feels appropriate. And payment, no, first of all, sorry, this is, I don't want to update the status. I want to find the status in appropriate. So that is not the match. We're doing that in our enum. Status. Try from where? What? Why is it not showing my... because it wasn't static. That's bad, isn't it? That needs to be static. Try from Trello status. And their statuses are in payload.status. Status equals. And then we set the status. So what is that? On my model. Where is my model? Status. And that's going to tell me it's got to be one of those. So status equals status. Okay. I'm going to comment this out because I just want to test that I can send the baseline request here and it's actually just going to work. with the structure that they've provided. So let's have a new, so can I duplicate this one? Will it duplicate it or will it not? Yeah, it kind of has. It's actually more than I need. But so we said Trello webhook and where is that? Let's take this. Good Lord, come on, go to the right place. That. We'll take one of our payment IDs from our database. This one. That is not the data that I tried to capture. It'd be good if their documentation also had correct JSON in it. And bam. Okay, yes, of course, that's got to be done without the CSRF. So how do I do that? Verify. Does this have an accept? Cool. Let's just do that. Oops. Trello webhook. Term value must be of type response. Response factory returned. Yes, because I just used the response helper, and that's not right. It's this. That's not enough. Is there no? There's no such thing as that, is there? Should I explicitly say that? Interesting. Well, I haven't. That hasn't updated it because I didn't do the save. That's the other stupid thing. But did I just create that? I didn't. That was from a long time ago. This one's the one that I should be updating. Sef9. Yeah. Payment. Save. Wow. Send. No errors. Good. What was the response code? 200. That's what I expect. Database says status 1, which is paid. Boom. Okay. What's the time? 4:30. Okay. I think we're going to pause there because we've basically got the closed loop of the system. I've just seen your message, Essa. Sorry, goodbye. Thank you for joining and for your input. That was great. Have a nice rest of your day. So yeah, this closed loop we've got now is in place. Payment gets made outside of our control. Theoretical webhook comes in and we can update the status. When I know more about what those different statuses can be, I can decide a little bit more what this should look like, and I can ask some questions and all of that, and I can figure out what these things should be. I am going to need to figure out just like a way to capture these requests from them to start with. Maybe I just log it. The question is, can I log? I need to be explicit about what I'm logging. I'm going to maybe that even needs more thought. We might need like traceability. we might need to record the requests somewhere that have come and be able to prove things. I don't know. But for now, I think I'll come up with a way of just capturing that as it comes into my system and not worry about aborting if the logic's not right. We'll just accept it. Cool. Okay, I'm not going to talk anymore. My voice is going. My brain is hurting. I think I need to pause. And this feels like an appropriate time to do that. How long have we been going? Don't know. We don't even know. It doesn't say. Where's the thing that says? Even that I can't tell. Oh, an hour and 50 minutes. Okay, so that's about normal. Seem to be producing about the same amount of work in the same amount of time, which is kind of nice. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'll wrap it up there. If anybody's got anything else to say, now's the chance. We can stop this. We can go back to this. Thanks for joining, again, as usual. Come next week, same time-ish, same place. What will we do? Make some more progress on this, hopefully. Have a good week end in between times and a good week ahead. And yeah, enjoy yourself. Try to enjoy yourself. Be good to other people. Blah blah blah. Like, subscribe, share, follow my stuff if you enjoyed this. Please, that will be really helpful. Tell your friends. Tell your friends to come and make fun of me from a distance. I would love that. Cool. Okay, I stop waffling. I'm going to say goodbye. This is it. It's over for another week. Thanks for joining. Have fun. Bye for now.